Hello, Sharks. I was graciously introduced before, and it was kind of an overall view of what I had done, and pretty much before I came to Australia. Now, coming to Australia, I had my own sort of keyhole perspective on how the startup scene here is developing. So when I first visited in 2008 and kind of looked up Australian startups on Google, Google would just return sort of a blank stare. What do you want from me? In 2012, I was here again for a visit, and I actually managed to hold down a headhunter. And he basically told me, look, you got nothing to do here. When Australians want money, they find a spot in the outback, they dig a big hole, whatever comes out, they sell to China. That's it. And in 2014, I wound up here dragged by my wife. And it turned out that this is on the cusp of becoming really one of the global hubs of startup innovation. I really do believe that. And part of that is, of course, the shift from mining, but part of that is really the realization that innovation has the potential to really carry the Australian economy forward. When I got to Australia, I joined One Ventures, and just a little bit about One Ventures. One Ventures is probably the largest privately funded VC in Australia. We manage just over $200 million. And what we focus on really is deep tech, deep science. We do that in the life sciences, but we also do that in IT, communications, and software. And what we and our partners, like Adapt Ventures, what we are looking for is really those pivotal increases in productivity that can be leveraged across organizations, not just in Australia, but across the globe. And I do believe that the 4 companies that we're going to see today have the potential to have that kind of effect. So, I'll introduce the first one. For the Code is a company that I first saw a couple of years ago. It has a very clever way of preventing people from accessing organizational networks, and in a way, preventing that kind of occurrence is productivity in itself. So, please, For the Code.
Afternoon, everyone. A couple of things. This is my first, so go easy. I'm grey, but this is my first Shark Tank. Secondly, who's winning? Because everyone's looking at their phones, looking at the blues and the reds, and I need to know who's winning. God, Lord. All right, okay, that's another whole session on its own. All right, terrific. All right, okay. Well, welcome everybody. My name's David Stewart. I'm the VP of Products for a company called For the Code, based here in Melbourne. We're actually lucky enough to be funded. We have worldwide patents around our core IP. We're looking at expanding internationally next year. We actually have a revolutionary authentication solution. It's absolutely unique in the market to the point where we're actually defining a new market category. The market category is known as PMA, or Personally Managed Authentication. I shipped a product about 2 months ago, which is our Cypherise product, which is fundamentally the third pivot we've had around the architecture. Launched officially Cypherise about 2 weeks ago at Gartner, had unprecedented amount of interest from all sorts of organisations, large and small. And currently my CEO and my VP of Sales is over at the Web Summit in Portugal at the moment, being blown away, talking to basically the largest companies in the world, and they're very, very interested. How does it work? It plugs into your existing systems, right? So you don't need to go and re-engineer everything that you've got. Plugs into your existing systems, and it basically services all your authentication needs, be it whether that's electrical or physical, i.e. your enterprise apps, or even building, and from a business perspective as well as a personal perspective. So it really is, it's all about managing your authentication needs through your entire life cycle. We're delivering that on either a SaaS or an on-premise based model, and currently, since we announced GA, we've got 5 POCs in flight covering retail, insurance, education and health. So that's not a little bad kicker. So as far as where we're at there's two sorts of people in this world and companies. There's those that have been hacked and those that don't know they've been hacked. That's the reality. Unfortunately, it doesn't look as though it's going to change from that point of view. But we want to do that, okay? So we want to be able to, and we absolutely have the technology to allow people the freedom of authentication anywhere, anytime, and on any service, and it's for anyone. So it's for everyone here, it's for your families, it's for your companies, it's for your company's customers as well, and effectively that's what we have. This market segment, it's lacked real innovation for the last 10 years, and it's a big market segment, and this is really underestimating the size of that market segment. So how can I explain this to you really quickly? If you think about it, I'm going to use an analogy. Your typical username passwords, think of them as keys. Right now, you've got all these keys out with all these other organisations and trust points. What if I was to do the same thing for my car and my house? My keys, I'd make a whole heap of copies and I'd just go and distribute them to a whole bunch of people and hope that they're going to maintain and look after them and not allow them to be hacked. That doesn't happen. So this is what we're fundamentally doing. We're completely turning this upside down. We're bringing your keys back onto you. So taking it outside of the enterprise and the credential stores. And so fundamentally, if you think about it, the concept of a key, we're putting them back in your pocket. We're putting them back in the phone. And the keys will only be used when they need to be used, and you're the only person who can actually unlock the keys and make them usable for the service. That's the fundamental difference that we're bringing to market. And that's actually created this market, well, we've defined our own market effectively, or we're pioneering it certainly, and that is around PMA. So from an end user perspective, it absolutely needs to be convenient, it absolutely needs to be secure and very, very efficient. If the user can't just use it seamlessly, it's useless. And from an organisation, it needs MFA, no honeypot, no credential store, and we need to take out costs from an admin point of view. So question, who hates passwords? Yep, everyone does. Too long, too hard, etc., etc. But what if you're able to have a really simple one, 4 to 5 characters long, that is used across everything, all of your services? That is really compelling. So why don't we have a look at how we go about doing that? Okay, so what I have here is you'll see my application that I've got up and running on the, whoops, this would be right. It's not dragging. All right, that's not a good start. Sorry, I'm just trying to work with a mouse pad here that's not... All right, okay. So here's what I need to do first. The ability to be able to have a simple password means I have to enter it into something that visually nobody can basically get those details. So I'm going to do what you would never do. I'm visually going to enter this in front of you. So my password here, and I just entered in front of everyone. So anyone can have my phone and try that again. I'll do it again. You watch, the sequence will be different this time. Oh, there we go. They say you should always have a little bit of drama, except that should be for the audience, not for the actual... Okay, and I'm in. We only need to do that, say, once a day. Let's say I get out of bed, I'm hopping up to going to the building. This is a building, it's a small one for small people. There's a QR code on here, there's a door. I scan the QR code, door opens, I'm in. Multi-factor authentication, something I have, something I know in the persistence. What if I then move into a scenario where I'm at work, concur expenses, notice there's no password, I sign in, I get the notification, the big green button, approve, it's me, bang, I'm in. Really, really easy. What if I want to take that to the next step, incorporate something else? A bio, I'm in. Simple, simple, simple. All right, now what about something for your customers? Those customers you have, they visit you infrequently and they need to log on to your systems. They always forget their username, they always forget their password, they're back in and out of email. What about this? How schmick's that? No username, no password. Bliss from a user point of view, absolutely secure from a technology point of view. So, that being the case, and given the fact that I've got hardly any time left at all, what are we talking about here? So fundamentally what we've created this really, really simple, easy, convenient application that end users, your customers, you, your family can have and use. Download it from the App Store. We've been able to put that on a very, very secure platform effectively. A platform today that hasn't been broken because we obfuscate for visual attacks, malware, keyloggers, man in the middle, brute force attacks. That is big, people, very, very big. And so from a business point of view as well, we're taking all the risk because we're removing all of those passwords that you guys have to worry about from your systems. We're giving them back to the end user. And we're cutting out a huge amount of cost in the process as far as that too. The maintenance of it and just the risk. And by the way, mandatory disclosure, not sure whether everyone's familiar with that, it's in front of Parliament at the moment. That will require effectively you to announce breaches in your environment. This will stop that from an authentication perspective. So this is why we're going global and we absolutely have the opportunity and the platform to be able to do that. We just need your help. Oh, that's a bit rude. Thank you.
Maybe I'll start. Thanks, David. Good presentation. From a corporate point of view, can you help us understand the benefits to the corporation? Because I wouldn't have thought managing passwords would be a high-cost area for the business.
So more from a risk point of view. So the reality is that enterprises are required to keep their staff and their customers' credentials inside their databases, which can be hacked and often gets hacked. So the concept of brute force, where the database is removed from the organisation, taken offline, and there's a whole army of bad people out there with farms that you can hire to brute force people's passwords in a very, very short amount of time. So from that point of view, you're taking a massive amount of risk out of your organisation.
Thanks for the presentation. I've just got a question on the technology itself.
Yep.
How difficult would it be for one of the incumbent competitors to replicate this technology and just offer it as part of the existing suite of products?
Okay, so FortiCode's been around for a few years for a very good reason. That's to get our worldwide patent. That very quick 30 seconds I gave you of the challenge, there's a whole bunch more to that than meets the eye. The brilliance is in its simplicity. That is a worldwide patent around the method. You don't get patents for too many methods. So the way that we actually enable people to be able to enter, it's actually a one-time cipher. It's an indeterminate cipher, effectively. But the fact that it's patented, I guess, to your point, is really what's helping protect what we've got today. And that's a global patent that has been awarded to us.
Thank you. Very good demonstration. On your demonstration, you showed the solution working with Concur and Xero.
Yep.
How many partnerships or arrangements do you have? Do you have arrangements with Concur and Xero that they will accept this instead of?
So that's a really good. So I guess that where we are at the moment, as far as the maturation of the company, is to the point where we've architected the solution so that we've got a drop-in capability to many different sorts of connectors. So Concur and Xero will use this thing called SAML. So we have a SAML connection to there. As far as official certification, we haven't gone down that process yet. What we'll do is we'll go down that process based on demand from the opportunities that we're servicing at the moment.
So at the moment, those applications aren't accepting this versus...
Oh, no, sorry. Difference between... They work with them. Are they certified as far as that third party is concerned? Not yet. We haven't gone down that process. But we will, when we need to.
Thanks, David. I actually really enjoyed that. I think you're cutting into an area that has huge opportunity. Just on that Xero example, what setup did I have to do on Xero so that would work?
Okay, so Xero basically have, Xero and things like Slack and what have you, they use SAML basically, and they're publicly facing APIs. So that's a really good point.
So you just picked up their API?
Exactly. They're all public. We're connecting to all these third-party systems using existing APIs. We're not creating any funky stuff around that.
and you've got 5 proofs of concept running and 5 to 10 in train for next year. What are your early learnings on the current 5 proofs of concept around adoption and take-up?
Great question. So I guess part of our initial concern was around the challenge itself and how it would be accepted by different age groups effectively. We've been delighted the fact that, typically it's an 80, 85, 90% success rate, I guess, or as far as, people like it or they don't, that's sort of where it fits. Interestingly enough, some people don't like it because there's no special characters or anything like that you need, but that's the whole idea. It needs to be simple and memorable that you don't have to change. So that was really our biggest barrier, because the way we architected it was very much a drop-in. You can think of our solution as very much just a yes-no box at the end of the day that drops into existing identity management solutions, which most enterprises already have. All of that's set up. So all the enterprises will bring all their applications into one central point, and what happens is that one central point calls us, we supply the challenge, yes, no, in or out. Really simple, it drops straight in. So.
You mentioned the market hasn't seen much innovation, it's very concentrated. Who are the main competitors?
Knowing that we exist. That's the main one I see at the moment. There's absolutely other existing incumbents out there using, because this is all multi-factor as well, who do multi-factor, and they do it in various different ways. Most of the solutions, though, they either don't survive visual observation, and you can basically hack and get into them. Currently, we haven't found a way of being able to do that. So I guess from that point of view, it's very different. So, and we're not relying on bio or anything like that. The fundamental challenge we see with bio is that we think bio potentially has a good spot as an ID, but there's no intent behind a bio. The number of people who've come up to me and said, I've bought stuff using my wife's finger or my finger or when I've been asleep at night, is a little bit alarming. So, and the other thing is, you've only got 10 of these. You try resetting any more than 10. And the other point is, at the end of the day, a bio, at some point, has to go from your DNA to an electronic signature, which can be stolen. Good luck getting that back or changing that. There is no option. Once that's gone, it's gone. So how do you do? There's a tsunami of people who are going to have their identity stolen, and they can't do anything about it. You can always change a password. You can change a bank account, you can change a password. Sorry, little rant.
David, one last one for me. So the convenience sounds amazing,
yeah,
and it could be a revolution.
Yep.
But how do you change the culture out there? So, for example, if I've been using my bank and my password and I've never been hacked, or PayPal, whatever it is, never been hacked, and all of a sudden you're asking me to move all my passwords to a new company that I don't know. How do you change the culture and get people to trust this organisation?
Yep. So I guess part of the challenge, so around the adoption, part of the challenge is in Australia, unfortunately, we are not particularly good, and our level of knowledge on security is pretty low as far as the average person is concerned. Mandatory disclosure is going to change all of that big time. Multi-factor authentication is just being learnt about here, and people are starting to do that. Yes, the banks are doing it. You go to Singapore and everyone's got 6 of these RSA key fobs around their neck. They are absolutely aware of MFA. So it's education is part of it, but it's got to be simple and seamless. So if you have a look back on where we were as an example, of that demo that I had there, let's have a look at, say this one. See, we're putting up here an option of the QR code and your traditional login mechanism. So it's one of those things. You're going to have people who really enjoy adopting new technology, and they're going to get to work and they're going to log in, and they're basically going to do that, and they're in. Whereas the person sitting next to them is going to be going back, username, password, and I'm finally in. Oh, and then they've got to go to the next system and do the same thing. So I think it's that whole usability thing that ultimately will draw people towards. And then when they realise how secure it is, oh, and that, by the way, it's not just for my enterprise. I can use it for my personal banking. I can use it for my, my social purposes. I can use it for my building. Yeah, sure. So at the moment, we're basically an annuity-based revenue model, and it's pretty much based on a subscription. Yeah. So basically, what we're doing as far as So my whole life has been tier 1 US vendors, software, so licensing has to be incredibly simple for the trust relationship. It's got to be easy to consume, it's got to be done in such a way that a company who invests in us now knows that they're safe and secure and that they're not going to be additional value extracted out of them as they move forward. So what we're doing is for those organisations who are coming on this pioneering journey for us, it's basically $1.50 per month per person, and that's it. We are not limiting the number of applications that you want to hook in. So the planning... Yep. And if you've got customers, customer-facing portal, we basically just have a burn-down ticker and we look at a simple way of being able to do that. So it's got to be very predictable as far as the business and the organisation is concerned. Absolutely.
All right. Good job, Dave. That's great.
Thank you. And we're hiring Australian people.
Next up is HyperAnna. What HyperAnna does is big data analytics, which is something that we've all heard these terms thrown around. Very often we don't know what it actually means. What's kind of impressive about HyperAnna is that the artificial intelligence engine allows you to just ask questions like you would ask a human being, and she will return some answers. And so to talk about HyperAnna is, what's your name again?
Natalie.
Natalie. Sorry about that. Here you go.
Okay. Hello, can you hear me? Okay, good. Good evening, everyone, and thank you for having me here today. My name is Natalie, and I'm the co-founder and CEO of HyperAnna. So we are a data science and AI startup, and we're based in Sydney, Australia. I started this company with my best friend, Sam Zhang, in February this year. And I think if there's one key phrase that I would use to describe us, it's probably like data science geeks. So we spent a lot of time just building predictive model and recommendation engine in a number of different companies prior to building HyperAnna, actually. And so we have worked in services, insurance, and most recently Quantium as well. So I'm sure all of you here today would have seen a dashboard and would have worked with a dashboard before. And there are 3 key reasons why dashboard really sucks. The first one is it's actually really complex to get one of these built. It often involves a business user that will spec out a request, and then you would need to engage with some IT specialist or a business intelligence specialist. Often take weeks to build one of these. And if we want to make decisions in real time, actually waiting for a couple of weeks doesn't sound that exciting. The second thing is, dashboard is great for communicating key KPIs. But if you want to know specific problems, such as do people buy more pizza when it rains, it's actually really hard to use a dashboard to answer that type of question. And the third thing is, actually, we know that on a Monday morning, for a normal relationship or sales manager, they would receive about 10 dashboards for a singular data source. On a singular dashboard, you would think there's about 5 to 20 different key metrics. If you times that up, that's actually a lot of information to digest for a non-analytical user. Well, the alternative is you can build a really big data science team, but that is really expensive, and it's hard to scale as well. So what we estimate is more than 90%, which is a huge unserved market, of what we call everyday workers who can really benefit from getting more data into their day-to-day decision-making process. But at the moment, they just have no way to actually access analytics. So what is our mission? Really is just one thing. We want to make data accessible for everyone. So HyperAnna as a solution is very simple. If you imagine, take Siri and you let Siri sit on top of your company database, and then everyone can ask questions about the business, like how's my key accounts doing this week? Is my performance any good this week? So we started actually engaging with clients in July this